Something's not working.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
That was almost dangerous.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone. For those of you who are online, for those of you in person, we are doing a live stream from Fabric February over in Oslo, Norway.
Yes, very cold Oslo, Norway.
A very cold Oslo, Norway.
So for those who are watching live on whatever channel or here, basically the concept is this: every Thursday on my YouTube channel I do live streams, and these live streams are like very informal. We talk about a bit about data, a bit about community, a bit about ourselves. Sometimes we talk about Die Hard, sometimes we talk about sports, all that kind of stuff. So we thought we'd try and bring that experience here today for a live stream from Fabric February.
There we go.
There you go.
We also, so Ben runs the YouTube channel at PowerBI Guy on YouTube. So that's your channel, and you're very passionate about data viz.
I am.
Deneb, particularly.
Say Deneb.
Deneb.
There you go.
Okay, I gotta get it right.
PBix and Deneb, man.
PBix and Deneb. So I also run a YouTube channel. I run at PowerBI.tips, another YouTube channel as well. I also have the website PowerBI.tips. So if you've ever tried to figure out how to get Excel sheets into Power BI or look for some tips and tricks, that's my channel that we use. Again, we also do a podcast on our channel. It's called Explicit Measures Podcast, and we run it every Tuesday and Thursday. And again, it's candid conversation. It's around how do you do the people, the process, and the technology of Power BI all rolled together. It's just a conversation. Us talking about where we find their challenges. And believe it or not, the technology is not that bad. It's the people that feels like it's the harder part of Power BI, in convincing them and teaching them and educating.
Can you really say that at a Fabric conference? That is not the technology.
We will be real. We will try to be real.
Now that it's GA, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And everything works.
Well, now that the 450-day trial is now ended, we can now really begin using Fabric here recently.
Yeah, and I started using my Fabric trial when I had 41 days to go, because I decided that if I was going to learn everything about Fabric, 41 days would definitely be enough.
That's it. That's all you need.
Absolutely.
41 days till you learn everything about Fabric.
Yeah, so 41 days you can get back to me, and I will, of course, be an expert in Fabric.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll be giving all the trainings. I'm going to take over tips, or your tips website, and it'll all be me.
Yeah, we actually do have an entire YouTube series. Tommy Puglia, another MVP as well, we've done a full Learn Fabric series. How to create a lakehouse, how to build a pipeline, how to move data between things. So that's also on YouTube as well, so check that out if you are interested in learning more about how to click the buttons in Fabric and turn everything on. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's literally, they click the buttons.
Click the buttons, make it work. That's how it should work, right?
Yeah.
And click the buttons and use Copilot.
Always Copilot. Copilot on everything. So
at one point, we will be the Copilots.
I do have this weird dystopian future at some point where right now I can write an email and Copilot will write my emails for me, and then I'll send it to Ben, and he'll say, well, summarize this email, it's too wordy, with Copilot. So I see a future where I talk to Copilot, Copilot talks to Ben's Copilot, and then it talks to you directly.
Absolutely.
We're just going to play a game of telephone with Copilot at some point.
I like it, yeah.
That's gonna be good.
We won't switch away where Copilot just starts saying random things, because it knows that it has all the power.
Yes.
Yeah.
All we're doing is making more heat in Microsoft data centers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. This is going to be my first, not my last nerdy reference. Okay. There is an episode of Doctor Who. You know Doctor Who?
I do know Doctor Who.
There's Doctor Who. There's an episode of Doctor Who, and I think it's called Midnight, whereby there's some kind of alien creature. It starts to mimic, and it repeats what you say. But at one point, it starts to mimic before you actually say it, so it takes over. So this is my nerdy reference, and this is where I see it's kind of like, well, Copilot started Copilot before we ask it to Copilot.
Yeah. I think you want to say this.
Yeah.
And you won't even suggest it before you
starts doing it. Yeah.
It's gonna get creepy.
I think you want. I think you want to purchase this license, then it will. Yeah,
That should be good.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm sold. Let's buy 2 of them.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna happen.
So we're also going to allow open audience questions. So if you have questions about what we do, Fabric in general, our perspective on things, just raise your hand, yell it out, and we'll repeat the question for people online so they can hear it.
Or we can give you a microphone. For example, these people who are not participating here at all are like, I could just like shove a microphone in their face, and then they'll have to ask us questions. So they're sitting very much in harm's way, but like right here, out of camera, there's a whole conversation going on. So I could just put the microphone in there. and we could just get some very candid conversation. But I won't, because I'm a nice person.
We'll try.
We'll try our best.
That's right.
What's really enjoyable about all this, by the way, is that me and Mike had this idea to do a session that was, we had to do very little preparation for. No slides, no
Easy.
no what you're going to learn. And we thought this was a great idea until we realized
To do it.
it was just being how many calls, making sure everything works.
4 or 5 phone calls.
Yeah, 4 or 5 phone. And also last night in the hotel room, realizing
Scrambling with technology.
to see if we had all the bits and pieces to come together. So last swap computers because yeah. So I'm not sure. This is hopefully the last time we do it, but. say to me at
You're
6:30
waking up.
in the morning,
I'm
ask me about DAX?
No coffee needed.
No, nothing.
Nothing. I'm up.
It was the
Let's
first
talk
question.
about it. Now, we're using calculated columns or not? Because I'm pretty sure we don't want to use those.
So we've got Chris Wagner.
Oh, Chris Wagner should be nearby for calculated columns.
Yeah.
Couldn't make it.
No, I couldn't make it.
Couldn't make it.
We invited him,
You
but we
didn't put all my calculated columns either, right?
yeah,
They
exactly.
can't make it either.
No, they can't. Everything just goes
Delete
so
it.
slow, right?
Delete
Exactly. Oh my god. Yeah, it's good stuff. But actually, if Chris Wagner was here, you could sit in the middle here and just basically talk for 45 minutes just about calculated columns.
Yes.
Yeah.
How we love them
How we love them.
so much.
Yeah.
When people go back to the live stream, they'll be able to snip that segment and snip that Ben and Mike absolutely love calculated columns.
So about YouTube Shorts, Johnny knows. Yeah.
I hear another question.
Yeah, how many machine learning engineers are required to change the light bulb?
Oh, okay. How many machine learning engineers are required to change a light bulb?
Whoa.
So Tommy recently on the podcast, we did a session on explicit measures where Tommy used AI to generate a whole bunch of jokes. And one of the jokes was something around those ideas. It's something like, how many data engineers does it take to, it takes like two, one to say the light bulb is fine and another one to verify the results are correct or something along those lines, but you don't actually change the light bulb.
How many?
You just restate the statistics so that the light bulb is always on.
5,000 times.
Yes, exactly.
Was it data mining engineers? Was that the question?
Yes.
So how many data mining engineers would you need to take to see if a hot dog is a sandwich?
Yes. I think that's.
We could combine these questions, merge them. I feel if I didn't, is it a sandwich?
I would go with it, yes.
I would no.
Okay.
So
we will disagree.
Basically, it's just me and Mike disagreeing on every single thing.
Yes.
And people mostly agree with Mike, just to hurt my feelings.
It makes for good entertainment.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
We ask Copilot.
We could ask. That's it. We could ask Copilot.
We should. Okay, so this should be a very good. If I had my phone nearby, I would actually ask Copilot that, and we give us a very detailed answer.
Yeah.
Any other questions around?
I just noticed the video's back on, by the way.
It came back.
When did that happen?
It just fixes itself. Copilot fixed it.
This is amazing. I love it.
Excellent. Any other questions from the audience? Other things in this session that you like? Who's? Yeah, go ahead.
Will fabric be around in March?
Oh, will fabric still be around in March?
Oh, we hope so.
This is the whole conference is just this month.
I mean, if it didn't happen.
It would. I think it's more like, isn't it like Christmas where Santa shows up for a period of time?
Yeah.
And then he's not there the rest of the year. So I think it's like that's how it is. The fabric is here till through the end of February.
Yeah.
And you have to wait and be a good child and do all your data correctly until next year.
I understand that people call things fun, like you have Fabric February and you have Fabric Friday, which is all fine because of the alliteration, and I do enjoy good alliteration and also pun. However, I think I said in the session before, I find February a very difficult month to say. So I wish it was called like Maverick, and then we could have like Maverick March, and I think that would just make everyone's life a bit easier. This is a native English speaker. I look at the word February and I say, is it February?
Too many R's.
Too many R's.
There's too many R's
It's
in there.
excessive, basically. But yeah, I think February will be around in March, April.
Yeah.
Just start paying for it. Start buying it.
That's really the principle
So
here.
that actually we put the question back to you. If you start paying for it, then if you
It will be there.
exactly, if you build it, it will come. If you pay for it, it will stay there. That was the much less popular. If it will remain.
It will remain.
Absolutely.
I'm also for fabric in general.
Oh my god, you asked me that question.
Yeah.
Learning how it works for me is the basic. I mean, I feel like at this conference I feel like I might be the least technical person. People who know me, I talk mainly about like data visualization and stuff. So actually, I may have mentioned this on a live stream before, but I don't care. I'm going to repeat myself. I was trying to work out why something wouldn't refresh.
Correct.
I had
Yes.
my one leg, one leg or something like that. I was like, I want to get some data in there. I put like a Gen 2 flow.
Data flow?
Data flow. And I was like, cool, worked, fantastic, very happy. Data was in there, like it should be. And that's okay, now I'm going to change the data types. And then I'm going to refresh it. So because I'm a Power BI person, so my world is generally Power Query, Power BI, and all the type of stuff.
It was Data Flow's Gen 1.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Oh, really?
Well, you could.
Ah.
but it was unbeknownst to you. So now you're at Dataflow Gen 2.
And then and then my world just fell apart when nothing would refresh. Oh, it was like a merge mash type of error. And I'm like, stop saying words that I don't understand. I have to Google every other word when I look at Fabric.
Oh, no.
Every other. And so so someone sent me a link to explain. Oh yeah, it's because of the restriction of delta. And okay, I'm just going to read the article and then I'm going to put it in ChatGPT and say, please explain this article to someone who knows nothing about any of these words. Or like, speak to me like I'm a 7-year-old. That is what it is.
So this is a really interesting point you bring up, because I feel like a lot of people coming into Fabric have been of the traditional business user sense.
Yeah.
We come in as business users. We're used to using Power BI and visualizations, the NEB particularly. Love that visual. And then we're now introduced to delta tables and parquet and this lake house. So there's the words, right?
I thought parquet was just flooring.
Parquet. You thought it was parquet?
Yeah, no, parquet flooring. It's a thing, right?
Oh.
It's this wood flooring and the parquet flooring. I was like, it's beautiful stuff, but what?
But why in my data mark?
Yeah, when I first my previous boss spoke, we said, oh, this is this new thing, Fabric. I left my company on pretty much the day Fabric was released. So I'm leaving. And, oh, there's this new thing called Fabric, and it uses like this delta parquet. And he was like, oh wow, it's really fast. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Sure.
If you say so.
If you say so.
Yeah, I don't know.
But this is, I think, the interesting thing about Fabric. We are now in a space where we're getting the grow up story. To me, Fabric is Microsoft Power BI growing to enterprise grade type materials. A lot of the things we used to use in Azure Data Factory pipelines, those things coming over now.
Yeah.
Very happy to see that. I have been doing data warehouse development with Databricks for a number of years, 5 years or plus. And now to see these same technologies coming into Fabric is really helpful. So I love the fact that we're now spanning more areas of expertise. I think the data engineering role, yes, it's solid, but you're going to find more business analysts moving towards a data engineering role and learning more about warehousing and slowly changing dimensions. And so to me, this is a really great opportunity for organizations to, for a single package, get everything they need. So if you're an on-prem organization trying to get to cloud, it really feels like this is a great fit for that type of the organization. So I really like that aspect of the Fabric suite.
I kind of had the impression when I first heard of Fabric and what it was going to do, that I was like, is this kind of like for data engineering and data science what Power BI was for data analysis? Is that like is it kind of let's kind of bring it to the masses. So yes, I mean before I'm not complaining, but I'm frustrated with myself because I feel like I'm myself back in 2016 knowing basically nothing. But I was thinking, okay, so I have all these possibilities now, but of course not to learn them all because that would be just far too much.
What do you focus on? That's the question.
Yeah.
What of the things are most important now?
I think because I'm just in my own personal tenant, I'm going to focus on like one lake and have like lake house and like the data flows and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of wanted to do. But I guess it's the fact that if I look at it from when I first started with Power BI, I was starting to use words that I wasn't even familiar with before.
Yeah.
And you slowly integrate those words into your vocabulary. You do a bit more Googling and you kind of slowly feel yourself becoming,
I think it's right.
I'll say more intelligent rather than less stupid. It sounds nicer if I say more intelligent.
I'd agree.
Thank you.
You say context out loud.
Context.
Yeah. Also, I like to drop certain things like into I've forgotten the word straight away.
See, context transition.
Context transition. What's the entire engine that Power BI is built on? VertiPack.
VertiPack.
Yeah. If you just also drop in VertiPack, why is this slow? Why too many columns?
VertiPack.
Yes.
It's a,
Google it.
too many columns with high cardinality.
Yes.
That's another great term. So these are all tricks for you to use at your organization, right? So that's a high cardinality column.
Yeah.
It is VertiPack. But there's too many parquets. You can just say these things and be like, oh yes, I'll let you fix that. And you can take some time to review your model.
Cool idea for a product, by the way, is that if we start to sell like packs of like excuses and reasons.
Oh, I like that.
So like it's like
cards.
The cards.
Yes.
So you have these cards on your desk, and if someone asks you a question, you just pick a random card, you read it, and one's VertiPack engine, a calculator.
Bi-directional relationship. That's the main problem here.
Yeah.
It's the bi-directional relationship.
Or just really check your data model.
Yeah, many to many, really.
Many relationships. Actually.
Calculated columns would be a couple of those.
Come on. Yeah.
Just a handful of those.
Yeah, we gotta make enough that the rotation so we don't have to
It's called a iterative calculation. Is that the one? I'm looking for my
I don't know. You
my
like
DAX
me as
experts
well.
in the field.
Yeah, I definitely made it up, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I can
That's
make
legit.
it words to sound intelligent as well. that also works.
Yeah, the Delta files tell me to say that. That's what's happening.
But yeah, it's a fun challenge.
Yes,
I just wish I had more time for the challenge.
I'd agree. So I think in a lot of these cases, as you learn things, and for me particularly, I love just going in and just playing with the program. You really can't break anything.
That's true.
You can get away with a lot. But imagine if you were trying to spin all this stuff up without Fabric. You had to go to Azure Data Factory, turn that on, and you'd have to go turn on a blob storage account, and you have to turn on all these things that are not just included, which is great. But again, this is why I feel like the tools that we give the data engineer now are way richer, way more in line with enterprise.
I really enjoyed that you used the word richer, by the way, because that's one of my massive fears of Fabric. It's like cost.
The richer part of it?
The richer. Like if I learn it, if I can get more money, that's one thing. But if I use it to test it and spend too much of my own money, that's where I get. So free trial is good.
Well, I love the free trial,
but my concern is, it's like, I mean, I'm perpetually terrified, by the way, of the Azure portal or whatever, and to have to set up restrictions and stuff.
This is the point, though.
Yeah.
This is why it's less buried. You only have one place to go. You only have one thing to turn on now.
But you can still run a query and, at the end of the month to get to switch it off. You got a bill of like €5,000, right?
Well. So inside Fabric billing, you have multiple SKUs that go from an I believe it's an F2, all the way up to an F64.
That's true.
So what I would say, if you're grabbing the F64 SKU, yes, it would be $5,000 a month to run that, which is a bit expensive. However, the F2 SKU for trying things out, learning some things, $280 a month, which is a lot more reasonable.
That is true. So that was I when they released this, basically like not pay as you go, but rather
correct.
Yeah, that was like, that's really cool. That's less scary for someone like me who doesn't really know what I'm doing. But at the same time, and I know I'm probably asking too much here, just if it was like half that price, because
it goes cheaper if you commit to a year-long pricing.
Do you know what's really weird though? I was checking this out the other day. So I live in Germany, right? And I had to check where my tenant or wherever was located. And my tenant is like southwest Germany, like Frankfurt area. And for that, my Fabric cost per month would be like €170.
Okay.
And I was like, cool. If I switch that to North Germany,
and
270.
See?
But why does it cost more depending on your region?
Because you're better down there.
But I'm based in the north.
The electricity is cheaper.
Cheaper electricity.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
There's less co-pilot in the south though.
Exactly.
Germany.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels like a punishment. Right?
It was context transition. That was exactly what it was. We'll refer back to that one.
I kind of feel that I walked right into that.
Well, yeah, you did.
Yeah, Johnny just stand there. He's just gonna like, I'm just gonna, every time.
I feel like it was a softball, and it was just
not.
Is that an analogy that works well?
Yeah,
Is it cricket? Well, I don't know.
No, you can say softball.
Okay, softball. Okay.
We know all of your sports traditions.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I apologize. From America, I don't know what everyone else plays all the time.
We're bombarded by your media.
It is football. I will say that.
I don't mind soccer. Actually.
Soccer's okay, but I think it should still be football.
Johnny used to play cricket. You know that.
See, that's why I made the cricket reference.
Yeah,
I know that there's a ball and a cricket stick and you hit it.
I think most people in England also don't understand the rules of cricket because it's so complex.
I've heard the games can last a long time.
They can last 5 days, but even better than that is that it's a sport where you have like positions called like silly mid on and silly mid off. Now,
really?
Excuse me, but that's the best sport in the world just for those positions.
I would agree with that.
Not like forward, left back, or defender. Silly mid on. Yeah, it's crazy.
I like it.
Yeah, you gotta get into it. Yeah.
I'll get into it a bit more.
Yeah, do it.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Other things that you want to learn about Fabric? Anything you've learned about Fabric that, yeah, go over here. Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a good question.
So I'm going to repeat the question. This is a great question. For the pricing model for Fabric, how does this work for small companies? And I'm actually going to add a little bit to your question as well. How does that scale from small companies as you grow and consume more with Fabric? So I'm going to give you some context because I've done Power BI Embedded. I do a lot of Power BI Embedded. So there's another SKU called the Azure A SKU, which is turning on premium, but for ISVs, independent service providers. And then there's the P SKUs, and Microsoft will tell you right day one, you want anything premium, go buy a P SKU. Very expensive. So a lot of feedback has been given to Microsoft to say, what is a more balanced approach to how we can license things? So you get full fabric, full capabilities at those lower SKUs. And so especially if you're just trying to figure out, does this work for my organization? Can I use the data mart to store my server database? Can I use Lakehouse? Does this work, right? So if you are a company that is primarily on-prem and you're looking to go towards the cloud, Fabric is a great solution because a lot of the Azure components, like Azure Data Factory, Lakehouses, they're already included inside the subscription, which is great. And then as you grow and use more capacity, you can then scale up accordingly. So for smaller organizations, I'd highly recommend Fabric, and I would actually look at the Fabric SKUs from the Azure portal on the smaller end of the spectrum to start. And then I want to give you an analogy here. It's a balance between value and cost. So we talked about this recently on the podcast, which was the idea of if I have enough value, the cost will justify the equivalent amount of value. At some point, you will find the costs increase. You have to evaluate, is the value I get from that process, is it efficient enough for me to actually continue investing the money? So what happens at that point? Then you step back and you say, okay, well maybe my data flow Gen 2 is not the most efficient. Maybe I build or I build bring the size of the model smaller, which will then help you. So in that respect, then you can evaluate and you can tune, right? So think about a development cycle of an application or program. You start with, well, we just got to get it working. Let's just get it working first. Then after that, you're saying, okay, let's optimize. Let's make it more efficient and more cost effective. So I think it's a good balance between getting started with lower end Fabric SKUs. You can try all the features, figure out what works for your business, and then as you scale up, you can then look at which parts of that you need to optimize. So I think it's a great balance. Another thing I'll point out here that I really love, I'm going to use all the funny words. Okay, here we go. Funny words, incoming funny words. So the technology of using Delta tables. Delta has really changed the game. Microsoft was late to the game to Delta. It's been out for Databricks for many, many years. Databricks created the Delta tables. And so the fact that the Vertipack engine can talk to Delta, so if there's a function in M that says data lake.table, where you can go read direct tables from a data lake, you now have Power Query that can read and write Delta tables and experience. And then you have SQL Server, which is the data marts. Compute engines can now read and write out of that Delta format. So the key, the grow-up story that I really love here is Fabric now uses Delta. Delta stores your data in a very efficient and effective way. And Benny, this afternoon, will talk all about my favorite feature, which is Direct Lake, that is coming out. It's out, but there's a lot of really good technical pieces along with that. I'm going to pick on you specifically, Benny, because I have a lot of good questions around it. It is amazing, and it takes like a lot of great features of import and blends them with direct query and gives you in one solid feature where you can directly query the lake. So I think organizations are going to love Direct Lake. I'm already finding a lot of value from it today currently, and I think a lot of other organizations will also find a lot of value too. Even at a small scale, I think it will work very well for you. Does that help answer the question?
It was interesting that you said like you buy the Fabric license and all those components come already made.
Yes.
Let's say those 7 components.
Yes.
You get them all, but
yes.
You basically only need 3 or 4. Still works well to use Fabric.
Yes. So when you buy Fabric, you get all of the components. You get the streaming, you get Kusto, the databasing, the lake houses, all that's included. The only thing different from a pricing standpoint is the one lake. So as you make more storage, as you use more files, those are charged separately. But other than that, everything else is included. And the neat part as well here, if you have a heavy load on your environment, you can actually do some really fancy things where you can script Fabric to turn up in size while you're doing a load, and then you can ramp down after you've completed a heavy load operation. So you can kind of dynamically adjust what SKU you're using, so you can ramp up capacity when you need it, and you can turn it back down when you don't. Does that kind of answer the question too? Okay, good. Yeah, it's very, very flexible in that respect.
I'm so pleased you're here to answer these questions intelligently. because that was me back at understanding 25% again. I know my limits, and the mic was like, "Just go on, what? I'm learning so much right now." And actually, which is interesting because these live streams that I tend to do, sometimes I think they're quite, I don't know, selfish in my regard, because I invite people every Thursday to come and talk, have conversations.
I agree with this, yes.
And I'm like, at first, it started during lockdown, probably because I was just like lonely. I want somebody to talk to. I mean, other than my wife and kids, but you get me, like from the outside.
Well, you can only talk so much Power BI with your family.
Well, especially to a toddler. Actually, I said to my daughter asked me what my job was once, and I showed up and what I'm doing, and I showed her Power BI. I don't know why I even asked the question. I was like, "Do you think it's cool?" She was like, "No," and just walked away. I was like, "Well, first of all, how dare you?" And
Second of all, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I started to the live stream, and the live stream during lockdown. And yeah, go get a t-shirt, right? Good questions.
Good question.
And I realized that quite often I was speaking to people who are a lot more technical than me. And I was just sitting there. The first one that really happened was Christian Wade.
Yes.
Because my God, he was talking to me, and I was like, I'm not sure if you agree. I might be wrong. It might be obvious, but I kind of tried my best to kind of like nodding and smiling when I don't understand. Because the people who are watching the live stream, often they understand, and I'm not like this like person in the middle. And my brain, I feel like I'm like singing along as something happens.
Yeah, it's turning to mush.
Yeah, exactly. But I learned quite a lot about things that I would never otherwise actually have conversations about.
I would agree with this, and this is one of the reasons why I like doing a lot of live streams as well, with other experts, because I can't know it all.
Sure.
And so lean on other experts. Again, I love the net. I am not an expert in the net, believe it or not. I enjoy it. I can get around a little bit.
Yeah.
Great tool. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert in it. And so I've learned a lot from Ben in how to build these visuals in a dynamic way, and looking at what the marks do and the different properties.
But I love how that works, because that's like the whole, I guess, the community issue, right? Not issue, the community situation where you do that, but then I speak to someone like David Batchu, who it's nice to know that person, because you can just ping him and he teaches me loads. So I kind of there's this kind of like this filter of knowledge that leads itself down.
Exactly. I feel selfish to some degree though too. I'm using them for their knowledge.
But they use you as well.
That's true.
In a nice way.
Yes.
You use in a nice way.
It's symbiotic.
Exactly. Actually, I'm curious. Is anyone here self-taught? Like, because I find that really interesting, because one of the things I've enjoyed so much is speaking to people and kind of understanding the journey of where they got to now. Yeah. Like I personally, I studied history and politics at university, so obviously nothing to do with what I do now. When I moved to Berlin, I spent 3.5 years working as a flight attendant, which again,
no kidding,
a flight attendant. Yeah.
You were a flight attendant.
I was for 3.5 EasyJet. Which maybe is why I like orange. I'm not sure, but this is what I did for quite a long time. And this, of course, if you do that as your job, it's no disrespect, but it wasn't for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I always find it interesting, the difference between, because I always consider that like a non-standard entry to the industry. But the more people I speak to, the more standard it actually becomes.
Yes.
Because obviously I work pretty much exclusively in the Microsoft Power BI like area. And because of what that tool does, I think it really did bring a lot more people into the industry.
Agree.
Which I think, now that I think about it, this could be really wrong, I'm just making stuff up now. That itself works really well for something like Fabric. Because if you consider it like the gateway tool, Power BI, the gateway tool, they got you hooked, right? We love it, that's why you're here, no? And then they have Fabric. It's like, oh, okay.
And then everyone is struggling with what is Fabric? Well, what are all these new words I need to learn?
The thing is, Fabric's quite difficult, so, in my opinion. So I could say, like, Fabric's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
They got me hooked on Power BI. Now I'm moving on to this more difficult aspect. Well, it's a good way of coming in.
Well,
let's see what it is.
I want to entertain that idea a little bit more. Okay. So you saw Fabric, right? And your first starting point was you started working in data flows.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I felt like it was closest to Power Query.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a very common pattern that I observed. This is what I did. Yeah. So I got into Fabric. My first inclination is drop right into Data Flows Gen 2. It has the UI. I'm very comfortable with it. Like, what is it doing? Yeah. So, this is, I think, your learning path is very indicative of like how I think you should learn Fabric. You should start with what you know, and they made a great path with Data Flows Gen 2.
Yeah.
and that's going to now lead you to learn about lake houses and bronze, silver, and gold, and the delta. And so I realize I can't change my data types in the middle of my data flow because of these reasons. So
it only took me two days to work that out, by the way.
Well, not everyone else knows, so we just saved you 2 days of work by. And the solution was to delete the table and remove it, right? And just rewrite it.
It just seems so unintuitive to say I want to change a data type. First, I have to delete an entire table. It seems like a terrifying thing to do. Right. Oh, by the way, imagine that was just me in my test area. Imagine I'm working at a company, and by the way, I'm going to drop an entire table. Why? Oh, because I need to go from text to a number. That makes sense.
Well, I mean, to be fair, data flow Gen 1, when you refresh it, would drop and replace the whole data set too.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
Perspective.
I'll give you that. Okay, don't come up with you're so correct. It's so upsetting, Mike. Just because you know more and stuff.
We're symbiotic, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I forget what I was saying now, but basically about learning fabric.
Well, it's kind of the learning journey.
Yeah, exactly, the learning journey.
So
I love how
Twitter, information overload.
I would agree with you.
Very true.
Fabric.
So the question is, there's so much information coming out on Twitter, LinkedIn, content generation, the Microsoft, learnmicrosoft.com.
Yeah.
So how do you keep up on everything? My recommendation, I'll let you do your recommendation second. My recommendation would be is spend just a little bit of time each week just diving into a little bit more. So again, start with what you're comfortable. Our example of start with data flows, start there. And then there's, I would recommend the Microsoft Learn documentation. They're doing a great job of walking you through here's beginner level things you need to understand. And I have loved the documentation. It's very clear, but there's a data engineering beginner level for Fabric. Really good learning path. Walks you through what is Delta, what are the lake houses, and then they start talking about what is bronze, silver, gold, medallion architecture on your data. So again, we are borrowing. So to go back to your very early point, the data engineering world is now becoming a commodity. And I think of reporting the same way. Previously, reporting was only done in Excel, and it was a lot of time invested. And now with Power BI, I can build way faster visuals. Build reports is becoming a commodity. And the same thing's happening now for data engineering. Everyone can be a data engineer, and that's exactly the right story in Microsoft. So because of that, there's now this wealth of information. Start with what's comfortable for you. Start with Data Flows Gen 2. Work your way from there. Go through the Microsoft training articles. They have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I'd recommend walking through those paths as well. But spend a little bit of time each week and a trick here, get your manager or boss to apply it to your goals for the year. I will be something in Fabric, and so what that does is you can quantify your time. And again, when I was in corporate America, because I run my own company now, but I love doing that. I need to learn this. I want to learn this thing. Well, by the way, I'll take the self-initiative, and then it'll be tracked in my goals. And so then I can say, yeah, I did it. Every month, I spent 4 hours of time. Here's what I did. Look at all the learning sessions I did on Microsoft. I get little certifications for those. I get a score. And so all those really help your education as you go further down there.
You can make it an OKR, and then you can track your OKR using Viva Go. Viva.
Right. Power BI metrics. Viva Goals also is very similar to OKRs.
Because Power BI metrics used to be called goals, and then it's very confusing.
Very confusing. I still call it goals occasionally. Same thing with semantic models and data sets. I'm going to be confused there. That answers your question though.
Yeah, I would say
it's no, not really.
I kind of agree with you. I think you're right. Yeah.
Hat or shirt?
Yeah.
Shirt it is.
The only thing I would say anything different one would be yes, I agree, it's good. I mean, the documentation is very good.
Yes.
There's also one really good blog. I forget the person's name. His name is Power.
It might end in tips. PowerBI.tips?
Yeah, of course, PowerBI, of course, for sure. But his name is P-A-W-A-R.
I thought you were giving me a lob here.
No, I'm trying my best. I'll get there, don't worry. we like to think it's all about us, We're very egotistical sitting there live streaming with an audience with 2 microphones and a camera. Sometimes it's about other people as well,
Oh yeah, yes, I forgot. Oh, you're here. Nice to meet you.
I felt like that. Anyway, the point is, I'm trying to make this is that no matter what you're learning, it's like it's good to have like a use case, right? So if you have data or something that you want to achieve, rather than just saying, "Oh, today or this week I want to learn this thing,"
That's a good point.
is to have like an actual project that you're working on and learn the things that are relevant to that project. Yes, it might limit the scope of what you learn for that one project, but you learn it and you use it, and that's a really good way to actually understand the process from end to end. And when you're done with that project, you can, okay, I want to bring in a bit of
I
this,
like
I want to bring in a bit of that, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I'd also recommend find people that you find value from. Right, so there's a number of voices that you can find on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow them. I actually have a couple lists in, I guess, X, Twitter, whatever it's called now. And I have a couple lists of my favorite people I like to follow, and I listen to what they do. And so they'll put out articles. Chris Webb is a great one to follow. Anything from the SQL BI team, everything they have is like really deep. That's context transition like no other at that level. But follow them. Yeah, follow them. Power BI guy is good for Deneb stuff. He has
That's it. That's
it.
Okay, don't follow me for Fabric, all right? don't do that because you're gonna learn some terrible things. Maybe like me, just like making a video of me crying and pulling out my hair because I can't do anything.
Kurt Bueller was another one I love following.
Yeah, of course. Good.
So Kurt Bueller
Data
has
Goblins, right?
Data Goblins, amazing blog.
Yeah.
He has great artistic
He
work.
does artistic work.
He's got
Artwork.
artwork that's just incredible.
Yeah.
He has an image of the PBIX sinking. There's a boat in one of his images, and it's his boat sinking,
Yeah.
and there's the PBIX on the front of the boat. So that was for you.
I've actually just realized I forgot to do something, and this may be a good thing for everyone here. I did promise the first time I did this sort of thing, he has a shop, and he has these leggings.
Oh.
I said I was going to buy the leggings and wear them with shorts tomorrow.
I'm actually very happy that this didn't occur.
I think most people sitting there actually are, to be honest. But I was like, and I forgot to do it. I forgot to buy the leggings.
We'll forgive you for that one.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem there.
Maybe Kurt cares and no one else, basically.
Yeah, we won't tell Kurt. Thank you very much. Any other good blogs that people follow?
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
What was that?
Havens Consulting.
Oh, Havens Consulting is another great one.
Yeah.
He's got a YouTube channel, and he has a website, and he blogs about things, and he's really heavy on style, design, building themes for your reports.
Spell is much better.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I would agree.
Even if you're lying, I don't care. I'm going to take it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You guys forgot the obvious. Guy in a cube.
Guy in a Cube's great.
Guy in a
So Guy in a Cube.
I don't know
Who's that? I don't know. Adam?
Sometimes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Small, they got a small YouTube channel.
Actually, so
Just kidding, they're great.
Guy in a Cube is actually the reason why I chose, well, not the reason, it's the reason I regret choosing the worst name ever for my online presence. Power BI Guy. This is back in 2016. I was like, this is a good idea because I'm like a guy who works at Power BI. Isn't this a clever idea? And I created it, and then I suddenly realized that it makes me so unfindable on YouTube. It's ridiculous. Like if you check,
Guy in a Cube is like much higher ranked.
well, it's a guy in a cube, and guy in a cube works with Power BI. So if you go to any type Power BI guy, I'm like maybe like the 700th find or something. Just scroll,
Page 10.
keep scrolling.
Now, if you
keep
look for
scrolling.
Power BI Deneb, you
Yeah.
pop up pretty easily.
That's a
Now.
good point, actually.
That's your niche.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So basically, if the net ever ceases to exist, I've got
You're
to
done.
yeah, I'm
You're
done.
done. You need your job. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Lake house versus warehouse.
Oh,
Fabric,
lake house?
Now versus in 1 year from now with everything that's coming.
Okay. All right.
And, were you guys yesterday at
Yeah.
the session with
No.
with
I'll let Ben answer this. This is a great one for you.
Don't you do that. So that's the end of the session. Thank you very much.
So the question was lake house or warehouse right now, so that the data marts potentially, and then where does it look like now, and then maybe where does it look like in a year from now, correct? Okay.
That just makes me want to sing a Tina Turner song. Lake house, warehouse. Sorry.
So I would argue, so I would say warehouses are when they're solely based in SQL. So I would almost call a lakehouse like a warehouse. So a data mart has you store data. The difference with lakehouses is you're separating the compute from the storage engine. In SQL, all that's in one machine. It's just SQL Server. You have the data mart or the data warehouse. That's where all the data lives. So I believe the challenge you're going to face is in the future, our data volumes are exponentially growing, no matter what you're doing. Everywhere you look, every online application produces more data. Everything that you're using now is going to continue to push that boundary. So I think there's a price threshold that you're going to run into if you continue working only in warehouses. Now, my opinion, this is my opinion here, if you're using warehouses to service data into your Power BI reports, I would argue why. Because if I'm going to pay for the warehouse to be on 24/7, and I'm going to load data for an hour in the morning and then never touch it again or never refresh, my question would be, why does the warehouse need to be turned on all the time? I'd rather save the money and spend it on something else. So I see lake houses being a great opportunity for store the data, compute on demand what you need, and then from that compute, you can then easily load into Power BI. And so now with Direct Lake that's out now with the new M function for data lake.table, you can go directly to your lake and you can skip a lot of other SQL and compute engines. So at the end of the day, that capacity unit, the CUs that we've been talking about all day today in Fabric, that CU is going to be where your cost comes from. And I think if you move towards lake houses, you'll be able to drive your amount of compute lower, saving you more compute, doing things faster, more efficiently, and that will then save you more money long term. So my opinion here is most companies need reporting as of yesterday and older. Most companies don't really need real-time reporting. And I'll make an argument, the closer you get to real-time, the more money you'll spend on keeping the tables up to date, processing the data, making sure it comes through the pipeline. So not wrong, not saying you don't do it. There may be use cases where you have real-time data, but just be aware that the spend and costs, I think, increase as that ramps up.
It depends on the industry for sure, but I think most of the data that people work with, like business analytics,
Yes.
there is maybe one requirement that I can think of for real-time data, which is when you work in like not a call center, like a call center, or a situation where you have a customer service who brings in calls.
Sure.
That for real-time data, how many calls do we currently have? How many calls do we have on hold? That kind of stuff.
Yep.
But other than that, real-time data is just.
So does that answer some of your question around? So I'm very optimistic in lake houses, and I've been building them for about the last 5 years. And the fact that Microsoft is really jumping into lake houses, medallion architectures, storing data in Parquet and Delta, I'm very happy that they're doing this. And I think this really is going to keep Microsoft competitive around Snowflake, Google, BigQuery that they have over there. So I think this is really a competitive advantage for Microsoft now, because they haven't been able to compete with these really large enterprise Teradata or Snowflake at this scale in front of business users. So I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. The product team is very heavily motivated, continue to make that Lakehouse experience really easy for you.
Just a comment based on yesterday's session.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at this stage, you have the lakehouse, you have the SQL endpoint on top of the lakehouse, and
Yes.
you have the warehouse.
Yes.
And if they would be able to just convert the data warehouse with the SQL endpoint, it's just the same, and you just have the house like Patrick was talking about yesterday.
Yes.
Okay.
That like it's all the same under, but because right now you have to choose a little bit.
A little bit, yes.
That's fair point.
And I think you're going to continue to. So when you make a lake house today when you make a lake house, you get a lake house, you get a semantic data model, and you get a warehouse, basically, that SQL endpoint, right? So they're already blurring the line between those three things. So I can make tables, put them in the lake house, and then I can write SQL to query those tables, which is incredible. Like, that's amazing. So the fact that this is all being bolted together into the same thing, the lines will continue to blur between each one of these. And so I love landing everything Lakehouse. I think you will not go wrong if you put everything in the Lakehouse and figure out how that goes. Now, what will get tricky is when enterprises want to do a development environment, test environment, and production. This is where things I think get a little bit sketchy right now. It's not quite there yet, but I think they're making great improvements to make that easier for us to build and move forward with. But great question. You got any other easy ones? No, just teasing. That was a great question. It was very hard.
Excellent. In those situations, I just agree with Mike. It's just what he said sounds about right to me.
Funny words.
I'm nodding, right? Nodding and smiling. Wow, that's amazing. That's so.
I agree.
Yeah, I concur. It's like you're reading my mind. I concur.
If it works in prod, it works in test.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
what you bring up is an interesting point. We used to have a lot. In IT, you'd have dev and production. Here's where I did my development. Here's where I did production. I feel like Power BI has thrown that out the window to some degree.
Yeah.
When you build Power BI reports, everything was production.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're having a little bit of a pushback from the engineering world, the data engineering in Fabric, saying we really do need dev, test, and production because there's more.
I mean, like
Test moving.
Test is more like my workspace, right?
Yeah, I
That's
would
not
agree.
basically
Well,
like-
dev was also my workspace too.
Yeah.
Dev test
Yeah,
was my
yeah,
workspace,
yeah,
and then I would
exactly.
just push it to the workspace, and then
Exactly.
it's in production now.
And then when you find those reports like a year later, and they're all going from
Oh, they're all.
workspace.
Well, we come back to them a year later. There's a little triangle next to each data set because they're not refreshing. But no one's asking me about them, so therefore they're not being used. So you can just turn them off.
Well, that's actually the real metrics,
That's the real metrics.
because I could talk about this for a while actually.
Okay, go ahead.
So using the metrics provided by Power BI based on reports, data models, all that type of stuff,
Yes.
that is the most infuriating part of anything. It drives me crazy the fact that I have metrics in my report, but those metrics don't belong to me. They belong to Microsoft. And you have the not even new. It's still in preview, but it's the what is it called? This area where you can view all your metrics across the.
It's the admin workspace, the admin reporting workspace.
Yeah, something like that. But it's terrible. Because that's the only metrics that exist there are the ones that you can't save yourself, and therefore you can't change the visuals, and it's very, very restrictive. And so basically they've made it as hard as possible
Yes.
to get any sort of valuable insights for everything across your entire organization.
You just have to build custom now
Yeah.
and just build it forever.
Yeah.
So you're good to go.
See, that's the new answer, isn't it? It used to be like, if now just like to do Fabric,
Yeah, just do it forever.
if you pay for it.
So I don't know how long our session is supposed to go.
I think people are looking at going to the session, so I think we'll call it again.
Well, thank you all for attending. We appreciate your ears.
Fantastic.
Hopefully you found some funny parts of this, also some value as well. So we
Indeed.
appreciate your time. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. For those
Thank
of
you,
you
everyone.
online, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Fun.
We'll see you next year in February. Hopefully, come join us next year.
That's the plan.
Same time, same February next year.
If we're invited back, I can't send the organizers around, but if we're invited back, we'll do it again for sure.
Yes, I would love to.
Exactly. We'll wait for the feedback, right?
Yes, exactly. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Goodbye. And we're still streaming though. We're gonna play an outro. Bye bye. No, we're still there.